prepared for. A situation such as a blizzard, a tornado, or being locked down due to a virus. Put yourself in any possible situation that could arise. Now ask yourself, what would you do? Where would you go? What do you need? Are you ready? Because what if tomorrow? Welcome to the What If Tomorrow podcast. I'm Philip.
And I'm Mark.
Tonight we have a special guest, the first guest we've had in a while. Met her down at the Homesteading Expo. We'll bring her on here in a second, but I want to take care of the business side of this thing. Real quick, where'd it go? There it is. All right, just a second.
Hey, this is Mark with What If Tomorrow and What If Tomorrow on the Fringe. Be sure to check out our website, whatiftomorrowmedia.com. And look at our cool merch. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, posters, and more. Our affiliates are Duke Cannon, EMP Shield, My Patriot Supply, and Conflicted the Game. Or check out buymeacoffee.com/whatiftomorrow and buy us a coffee. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and share on both Facebook and YouTube. It helps get our content out to others and help our channel grow. Now on with the show.
All right, real quick, like I said, I spoke with Kody down at the Homesteading Expo. Her class was, for me, by far my favorite because it involved kids, and I have kids are on my heart a lot, especially the way things are going right now. But I'm going to read this bio real quick. Kody's a wife of a veteran, mother of 6, homesteader and homeschooler that has devoted her life to agriculture and embracing rural living. She created and authored the Homesteading Education series of homeschool curricula that includes homestead science. She is the host of the Homestead Education Podcast, which is rapidly growing in popularity, where she chats candidly about homesteading, homeschooling, and personal growth. She enjoys teaching many topics as well as bringing in some of the greatest thinkers in her field to teach her audience as well. Her teaching topic will be teaching homesteading for lifelong self-sufficiency. So without further ado, we'll bring Kody in. Hey, Kody.
Hello.
Like I said, real quick, I mean, it's kind of funny. Kody had to rush home because she forgot about us. That's okay, Kody. Everybody forgets about us, so no big deal.
Yeah.
Have you been?
I've been really good. Just trying to get our gardens in. Up here in the north, we actually still had freezes this week, so
wow.
I'm leaving for the Homesteading Festival day after tomorrow, and my gardens are still not in, so wish me luck.
Hey, good luck, because we're struggling to get ours in because we've had so much rain. We've had a drought the last 2 years.
Ooh.
And this year it's just slamming us with rain.
Make up for it hard.
I heard this morning alone, I heard we got around 5 inches of rain this morning. So yeah, we've been getting dumped on. Ponds are full, and which is great. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm. We had like a quarter inch today, but we had 50-mile-an-hour winds. So
wow. Yep. We've struggled with that. We've had some pretty severe storms come through in the last month and a half, 2 months, lots of tornadoes, all that good stuff, because where you were at in Pryor, we're about 70 miles kind of northeast of there.
Okay.
Southeastern Kansas. And, so it's active this time of year, obviously. I think I heard Pryor got hit last week.
Yeah.
Was it last week? No, it was a week before last. My wife found some deals for calf hutches down in Pryor. And so we were off Friday. It was Memorial Day weekend. And so she and I loaded up and went down there and picked up a calf hutch, brought it back. Then that weekend they had the storms and got hit. Yeah, it was kind of funny because my wife, she's been on this Facebook marketplace kick and is spending money like crazy. So, but I can't complain. I can't complain because she's getting really good deals. I mean, I think we spent like $175 on a calf hutch.
Oh, nice.
And it was in good condition. Last Saturday, we drove about 80 miles north of us to pick up a 12 hog feeder. and she only spent $100 on it.
And all that quality time in the car too.
Yeah. The kids and all that. The kids fell asleep, they do what kids do, but it wasn't a bad drive. We did a fishing derby earlier that morning, and my daughter, she won the biggest fish and had a good time with it. And then we came home, dropped our fishing gear and took off and got home by that afternoon, but I can't complain, so it's been busy, but been good. So Kody, I know what you're about. I sat through your class, and like I said in the intro, of all the classes that I sat through, I think I enjoyed yours the most.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And there's a lot of great classes down there.
Yeah.
And I sat through Joel Salatin. I enjoyed his class, but I think yours stood out for me because, like I said, I'm passionate for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I are actually looking at homeschooling, trying to figure out how to make it work because both of us work full time. And
it's hard, but it's doable.
Through our church, which I was telling Mark before you jumped on, they have a HAP, a homeschool assistance program, where the pastor will help teach, and some of the ladies there in the congregation will come in, help teach. And it's a pretty good deal. I mean, it's affordable. I think they said it was like $100 a month for each kid.
Oh yeah, that's really cheap.
Plus materials. I'm like, we can't beat it, but they only go 3 to 4 days a week. So, I mean, and my kids are 9 and 7. So without, because we were talking, it's like, well, we could actually save money in childcare if we could do that. But if we could get my wife home, so we're trying to work this out and try to understand. We have until the fall. So
yeah.
So can you explain to the listeners what you're about?
Yeah. That's such a big topic.
Hey, let's go. We got time.
I grew up ranching and majored in agriculture, and that was really my passion. I thought I was going to work for the USDA, which is really surprising as to who I am now, thinking I was going to work for the USDA. But and I never thought I'd homeschool, any of those things. And when my husband and I met, we were like, this is not the life we want for our family. We were living in Northern California, which is different than most of California. It's pretty rural. Yeah. But we just knew like the big picture, that wasn't what we wanted. And we got out of there. And with his being fully disabled, he was like, why don't you take a few years off and just be mom? And so I did that, and I don't have the brain capacity for that. I have to be doing all the time. And in that time, my husband actually got diagnosed with end-stage liver disease.
Oh, wow.
We think it's from the burn pits in Iraq. We were told he had maybe a year to live. And so I was like, well, I don't accept that answer. Let's figure something out. And we ended up pulling our kids out of school and starting homeschooling because we knew we wanted as much time with them as possible. We sold everything that we had and moved to a 40-acre farm in North Idaho. We were living in the high desert of Oregon, and you can't grow anything there. And we decided that we were going to start growing all of our own food, homeschooling the kids. And if the eating healthy and making those positive choices were good for my husband, great. And if for some reason they weren't, then me and the kids were really set up with a safe, stable environment. And 8 years later, we're happy to say my husband has a fully healed liver.
Awesome.
Yeah, we had a biopsy. Everything's good. We now grow and locally source 80% of our own food.
Nice.
And in that process, I realized that there was no agriculture homeschool curriculums for kids. So that's where my not being able to sit still came in, and I wrote one.
And I felt bad when we were chatting after your class. You were trying to eat lunch, and people kept coming and talking to you. I'm like, man, I'm sitting here. I want to invite her on. I was kind of looking through your books and all that, and I'm like, man, she's trying to eat, and everybody's bugging her. Now I'm going to be one of these people that are bugging her.
Does not bother me at all.
But
as long as you don't mind me like shoving my face with whatever like conference food I found.
Right. but we had a really good conversation kind of talking about, and I was like, man, I really do I did want you to come on, because we talk more about preparedness here.
Mhm.
What's going on in the world. We talk general preparedness. We talk things
What
that
a
are
week to
way
have
out
that
there.
conversation with me too.
Right. And I got thinking about it, when I invited you on and you accepted, and I was like, okay, what are we going to talk about? How are we going to tie this in together? And actually on the way down to Pryor, my wife and I were having a conversation, here a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, the word prepper has such a negative connotation in our society. Our media has brought that about. And I told her, I said, I really think homesteading is turning into the new prepper, because essentially that's what it is.
Mhm.
And when you break it down to the nuts and bolts, your preparedness, but you're doing it I think on a different scale. You're not getting, 10 years worth of emergency food and guns and all this. Homesteading is a practical way to go about it. And I truly believe that anybody, regardless of where they live, can homestead in some aspect. You may not have a big operation. I mean, we don't have a big operation here. We've got 10 acres. We've got 3 pigs. One, he's just a pet and he's a potbelly, but the other two, I mean, we're getting, he's awesome. We're getting ready for our gilt to farrow her first litter. Anytime, we've been saying anytime for a month, and she's only about 3 inches off the ground. I mean, she's gotten so big. And
we raise 350 hogs a year, so we say their gestation is 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, and 3 o'clock in the morning.
I believe it. Well, I told the wife, because like I said, we've been saying, hey, it's going to be any time here for the last month. And we were talking yesterday, checking her out, and I was like, what's going to be when we have a bad storm, right? I said, it's just going to happen that way. So
Yeah.
I actually left work early today because it was raining so hard. I was like, man, I know she's probably going to be farrowing now. But I walked back there and nope, she wasn't.
We never had a calf when I was a kid, unless the weather was absolutely atrocious. The worse the weather, the more likely they were to come.
Yeah.
So, but it's an adventure, it really is. And you make mistakes, you learn from them. And I actually got to sit down and listen to a few of your podcasts, and they're great. I would recommend anybody has a thought about it. One that stood out to me, I listened while I was doing chores. Actually, it was, I don't know, it was a little over 35 minutes or so. It was talking about I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it was like influencers still have a place. Homesteading influencers still is one of your most recent ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that. I was like, it was kind of before I really started listening to it and got in the nuts and bolts of your show. And I was like, I think there still is. And then that's kind of what your conclusions were. And like, some people are going to be farther down the road, but some people are just going to be starting. And I got thinking, I was like, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I read a piece in a book where basically homestead influencers have always been the thing. Like, that's how women made money 150 years ago to help out the homestead, was by writing articles and stories to sell to magazines.
And I thought that was cool because you were talking about all the way back to Jamestown.
Yeah.
And now I was like, I didn't realize that. I mean, Mark and I don't do a ton of research,
It's hard to when you're working 60 hours a week.
Yeah, it is. But
I have time because I work, 60, 80 hours a week in my own job, but my job is this stuff. So,
right.
And we're trying to turn it, and we have been. I mean, August be 4 years, Mark, that we've been doing this?
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's been fun. It's a fun hobby. And we're hoping we can keep pushing, and eventually get somewhere with it. But it really got me thinking, with the time that we are in, with everything that's going on really throughout the world, people are looking. I mean, I think the last couple of years it's really exploded. Obviously with COVID, people really started thinking about their food and all that when they started seeing the shelves go empty and all that. And people said, well, maybe I can grow a tomato plant, kind of using your example. And people started doing that. But my wife, we've been doing her channel about a year. We haven't been real consistent with her YouTube channel, but she's picking up steam. And, so she's trying to figure out how to, obviously, like every other creator, trying to get more subscribers, more listeners, more viewers, all this. She's doing.
If she figures it out, let me know.
Yeah. We talked to Colby from the Max while we were down there too, and he was giving her some advice on it, which is great. And I've still got yet to reach out to him, but kind of lost where I was going with it. But anyway, no, that's okay. It happens every show. It happens.
Yeah. Notice our lovely subtitles here.
Yeah. We like to have fun. So it's fun even when we have a guest, we love hearing the different perspectives but like I said, it seems like this isn't going to go away with the way things are going.
No, this is the way people live throughout most of recorded history. It's only been in the last few decades where we've gotten away from it. And it's not anything new under the sun. It's time we got back to it.
Yeah. And it's scary how fast it went away.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a totally different world from when I was a kid. We spent all summer canning, picking fruit, preserving fruit. I haven't seen anybody make tomato preserves in I don't know how long. I love that stuff. But yeah, nobody does it anymore. And it's like, oh, that's so hard. It's not hard.
No.
I grew up around people with a third grade education who did it all the time.
It's about routine.
Yeah.
I just keep my canner like all season long. It's on my stove. And when I come in from the garden at the end of the day and I start cooking dinner, whatever can go, I usually only do the pressure canning like once a week, but the water bath, it's just going all the time.
Oh, really? There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something
once you hit that time of year,
Yeah, it makes sense. Last year was our first
year. Already thinking about snapping beans.
Last year was the first year my wife made tomato sauce. So it's something that learning, and I don't remember if she did a video on it or not, but so in that aspect of it's not going away, I know we're trying to come from it from a little different perspective than you. So I want to get your perspective on it, kind of going along with your class that we set through on how to get kids involved in the homestead. I would like to take it maybe a little bit further. And what your thoughts on getting the kids involved in preparedness?
Absolutely. I've thought a lot about where our conversation might go once after you asked me to come on. And it goes right into what you were saying just a minute ago of homesteading is the new prepping, because prepping comes with that connotation. But I think what always turned me off to prepping is when you run out of what you have, what do you do then?
Exactly.
And homesteading is much more sustainable. Even if you only have one product because, you live in a, I don't know, an apartment or something, and all you can grow is just a ton of herbs and you can bake bread or something like that. That's something that you could continue to grow and barter well into a EMP shutdown or something. Versus, like us, we raise 350 hogs a year. We grow most of our own food. If things shut down, like when things shut down for COVID, I don't think we left our house for like 4 or 5 months. It was just the basics that we absolutely had to, because we didn't need to. We had everything we had here, and we could have continued that route long term. And I think that's where, besides the fact that's just how we've always done it, so like you said, all of recorded history, as we get back into that, people just need to know how to do this anyways, because
Yeah.
the synthetic fake society that we have at this time isn't going to sustain us.
No.
And like, whether it's something small, like, a storm, like a bad snowstorm, we're home for 4 days. We get hit by an EMP, it could be 4 years before we see power
Right.
again, or worse, and having that sustainability that you don't have with that prepper sense, I think is really important, not only for mindset for ourselves, but then that's where I really start teaching my kids that mindset. That
And that's awesome.
it isn't just a really big one that I talk about in my talks, which you heard, was that I don't consider these things chores. They're management responsibilities. So everything we do in our home, our kids, and it can be as small as taking out the trash all the way up to managing our swine herd. And it's their responsibility from start to finish. Like, I don't just tell my kids to take the trash out. I sit down with my kids and say, the trash is your responsibility. That means I expect it taken out every day. I won't even go into the kitchen and make your dinner until that trash is empty and I can work in there reasonably. It needs to all be out by, Sunday for the trash man to pick up Monday morning. And if we have trash that the trash man doesn't get to pick up, that's coming out of your money to take it to the dump. When I'm out of trash bags, I want to know about it. When the trash can is dirty, I expect you to clean it. I am not going to tell you to do each of these things. And I think that can go across the board for everything that we're doing with our kids, whether, like I said, you live in an apartment and that is their only responsibility. That's teaching them that mindset of every piece that goes into it.
Yep.
Because otherwise they're going to grow up thinking that their entire responsibility is taking the trash out one time a week and doing homework that is suddenly going to no longer exist.
Right. And that makes sense. One of my favorite things you said at the class, I got a chuckle out of it.
Who knows what came out of my mouth?
But it made so much sense to me. You said something along the lines of each of your kids has a responsibility to help with dinner, and if they don't help, they don't eat.
Yeah.
And I chuckled because if somebody from, I don't know, we'll just say the other side, the world or whatever you want to call it. They would, that's child abuse, and they'd get mad and up in arms. I'm like, no, I mean, it makes so much sense because I tell my kids,
they're going to be the first ones to tell you the best diet you can be on is some crazy fasting diet. So
right.
But
I tell my kids, because that part of their responsibilities are feeding the animals. I usually handle the pigs and stuff like that because they're 300 pounds. My kids are kind of small. I don't mind them being in the pen with me, but
yeah, my littles go in the pen, but the responsibility falls on my teenager who's 200 pounds. So
right.
Yeah.
But I tell them, and they're like, well, I'm hungry. I'm like, well, you know what? If they don't eat, you don't eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Animals eat first. You got to take care of the animals, And so I love your perspective on that. And I think more people need that perspective in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It seems, oh, sorry, were you gonna?
No, go ahead.
It seems harsh sometimes. And there's even days, I'm still a mom. I'm like, you didn't feed, you go to bed without dinner. And then like, we'll wait for everybody to go to bed and we'll call that one child up and be like, you can make yourself a basic sandwich, but you don't get what we all had. Yeah. But it's still, they have that like, ooh, I messed up.
Yeah.
And it's that like set of consequences that so many kids don't have anymore. It's,
I mean,
we've homeschooled for a while, but our kids were in public school for a long time, and they'd come home from school. Half the time they didn't have homework, and they would just sit in front of the TV or play on their electronics. And I saw their friends doing it too, and I still see my friends' kids, and I'm like, why is that your kid's entire life?
Right.
Like their entire existence. They don't have any like sets of responsibilities outside of that. And when you get to that prepper sense, when they start having responsibility for everything that's going on in your home, Like, we sit down quarterly with our kids and we make plans like, hey, we have this heifer that she's a crossbreed, and, do we want to butcher her? Do we want to breed her? Do we want to sell her? Like, what does everyone think we should do? And we go through all these pieces together as a family so that they are part of the whole cycle that's happening. So again, when you start looking at that prepper mindset, when they have that responsibility for each thing that's happening, whether it's the physical part of it, the research part of it, the trial and error, if everything were to shut down tomorrow, you have kids that could handle themselves, whether you're there or not.
Well, not only that, from another point of view, you're also raising your children so that when they go into the workforce, they're going to be the model employees. They're the ones who's going to get the raises. They're the ones who's going to get the responsibilities because they're already used to being responsible.
Yeah. We're not raising kids. We're raising adults.
Right.
That's right. And there's too many adults that act like kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mark
Absolutely.
Mark and I see it every day.
Yeah. I got guys at work who will empty the trash. This drives me nuts because I used to be a custodian. They go and empty the trash and then don't put anything back in the can. They say, why bother? You're not doing the job if you don't put the bag back.
I threw away something really gross the other day and then realized there was no bag in the can. I was like, ooh, guess what you get to do? Because I'm sure as heck not doing it.
That's right. Time to delegate. Well, my wife says hi.
Hello, wife.
Yeah, no. It's definitely an adventure. And she actually, I was thinking, because you were talking about the women historically, were the ones that planted and all that. And I'm like, it's no different now. My wife has planted 100% of the garden. I really haven't done anything. I feel bad now that she's listening. I gotta say
my husband's out there planting in the garden right now, but that's only because I was like, we were like driving home being like, okay, we have like 3 hours before dark and we're going to go out there and finish the garden. And your email came through. I was like, okay, we're going to go home. I'm going to do a podcast. You're going to finish the garden.
Yeah.
Well, tell him I'm sorry.
He's fine with it.
But yeah,
my best memories are from the garden when I was growing up. So I don't think.
Oh yeah, just eating. We kept a salt shaker in the garden.
Oh, cool. My wife, I think you probably gave my wife an idea because right now she's got 30 tomato plants in. We got a bunch of cucumbers and she's wanting to do loofah this year. And we got potatoes. Our boar got out and decimated our cabbage. Every one of them.
I knew where that was going.
I was like, man,
hogs love cabbage.
They also like potatoes.
Luckily, he hasn't dug any of them up because I guess the cabbage was there and we got home in time.
We haven't had potatoes in 2 years.
Oh, wow. My wife said 36. I think she's planning on planting some more too. But yeah, we've had a rough time trying to get our garden in because of the rain and all that, like I said. But it's so much better, for you. It's higher quality food. Mm-hmm. My kids love it. My son, my 9-year-old anyway, he is like, I think he'd be vegetarian if we'd let him because he just loves vegetables. But I'm like, no, you got to have some protein. You have to have real meat. But, I just lost my train of thought again.
So I'm sure you guys, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sure you guys have heard of or read or listened to 1 Second After and that series.
Yes.
So we listened to that with our kids driving across country. Scared the crap out of them. It was great. But no, it really started some great conversations. And not that I necessarily think you should scare the kids, but we were listening with our teenagers. We came home and our daughter, the first thing she said was, "Can I get our preps in order?" Yeah, she's 15. I said, you'll have to get online, go to Pinterest or something, like get a list of what other people are doing. She made a whole list, and every month when she helps me put together the grocery list, she adds things from our prep list to it
Good.
to add. And then after she got that kind of in order, she's like, I want to see what it would look like to cook without the grocery store. Let's do it.
Go ahead.
So she's like, I'm
Awesome.
going to take what we have in our pantries and our fridge, and I want to make it through a whole month without buying any groceries. Okay.
That's all.
So
End
the
of
month
job.
of December, I gave her $200 because we had no hard cheeses in the house at the time. And I'm like, I'm not going a whole month without hard cheese. Like, it's
Right.
not happening. Like, we had a cow, so we can do our own soft cheeses, but we couldn't do any
Oh,
hard
awesome.
cheeses. And so she spent $200 on just kind of some odds and ends. And other than that, that was for a family of 8, was all of our dinners, breakfast and lunches. A lot of that was like leftovers or eggs from the chickens or something.
Yep.
And it was December, so we bought Christmas dinner.
Nice.
And so I think like that's something that could really be a huge helper with kids, is like kind of run scenarios like that. Now, it doesn't have to be a whole month. I let her try it, and she's 15 and a really good cook. So I was like, yeah, do it. You know, I don't have to cook dinner either.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
you know,
My wife said that's
And
amazing.
now we see the ulterior motives.
right. Well, and you and your wife met my daughter at the event, I
Uh-huh.
believe. Yeah.
Yep.
She travels with me a lot. So, but do those types of scenarios with your kids. I mean, or even, you know, try it with yourselves. Like, often do you go like a Friday night or something and you're like, there's no food in the house, only ingredients. Heck with it. We're going to get a pizza.
Right.
No, figure something out. Like,
Yep.
even if, you know, I tell my kids all the time, you're spoiled when it comes to food.
I mean, we are.
We are.
I mean,
we really are.
because honestly, a sausage patty and a can of corn is still a meal.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You know, but if you look now, the price, you know, with inflation and all that, you know, that doesn't exist. The price of even going to McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's
I mean,
astronomical.
we don't go to McDonald's, but yeah, I mean, you're like paying for a 5-star meal just to go get a crappy burger. You know,
It
so
cost us less last night to go get 2 pizzas and 3 salad bars than it did to take the whole family to McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Not that we go very often, but one night a week, it's usually youth group night, we get pizza.
Mhm.
Because we have to drive 40 minutes to youth group, so it's just easier to eat in
Yeah.
town.
it makes sense.
Mhm.
We kind of do the same thing, except we do it Sunday after church. We
Yeah.
go to a buffet. Our restaurant in town is Simple Simon's.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we have a Simple Simon's too.
Oh, nice. But we'll go there Sunday after church and have the buffet and a salad bar, and it's
Mhm.
cheaper than going anywhere else.
Oh yeah.
It really
So-
is.
Wife and I took my son to El Pueblito, Mexican place over here in Indy, and we spent the same money we would have spent at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And got a lot better food,
Absolutely.
a lot better for you.
Yeah. We've gotten to the point where when we're traveling, we travel a lot in really small towns, and we'll roll into like at late at night, and the only thing that is open is McDonald's. The kids sometimes will be like, let's just skip food.
Good job, Mom. Good job.
Okay, cool. I
Yeah,
will
you-
promise you guys an amazing
just
breakfast in the
nostalgia.
morning.
The only reason we eat there at all is just for nostalgia.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was the thing when I was a kid. I mean, let's go to McDonald's.
Right.
Yeah.
I
It
will
was a different
admit,
time.
if it's my only option for breakfast, I like their breakfasts there.
Yeah.
But a
Agreed.
cheeseburger anymore, they're just gross. There's no flavor. They're dry. They're like, what am I even paying for?
Right. I
They
mean,
were
the best.
never as great as we remember, though.
No.
They never were.
I think they're better
Around
after a
here-
couple of years.
Oh, I'm sure. Everything is.
That's the thing. I quit drinking. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too. So I know around here, I don't know if you got the chance to go while you were down here or down this way. It's a big chain that's really, I think it's based out of Oklahoma. moves up this way, I think into northern Texas and all, but Brahms.
Mm-mm.
Their burgers are actually pretty decent.
Okay.
So if we want a burger, we usually go there. So if you're ever back down this way and you see a Brahms, stop.
That's good to know because I travel so much and I hate having to eat fast food, but sometimes it's just my only option when I'm on the road.
Right. And it's understandable.
Also a good place to get decent groceries because they sell fresh groceries. I mean,
see, I always have my notepad out and ready, so
a lot of their meat and stuff is something they produce. I mean, they because they have thousands upon thousands of cattle.
Yeah, they started out as a dairy.
Their own milk and all that. So
well, that's
they
awesome.
they sell the A2 milk and stuff like that. And yeah,
I love
it's pretty popular.
I love the changes in food that I'm seeing. Like the grassroots changes, like buying A2 milk, you were never able to buy that 5 years ago. And, unless it was like out back, like a drug deal, but
right.
And of course,
fact,
I mean, even 10 years ago when I was working in food safety, like, holy moly, like, if you drink raw milk, you were a crazy person. Like, you were literally like death wish. And when I moved to North Idaho, people were like, "Oh yeah, we have milk. It's raw." And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not drinking that." And then I actually learned, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Like we even had our own cow, and I pasteurized all of our milk.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, we had a neighbor that had a dairy 1.25 miles from our house, and we'd trade vegetables and stuff out of the garden. We'd get fresh milk. It was good stuff.
But yeah, talking raw milk, that's like the perfect segue into my thought. Here a couple of weeks ago, there's a lady that I want to say lives down by Bartlesville. She kind of runs a homestead thing and she sells her raw milk. My wife decided Bartlesville. I don't know if you went through Bartlesville or not. I don't know how you came down here.
Maybe we left through Kansas, but the weather was insane. So
yeah. But Bartlesville is like 30 miles south of here. I mean, Mark is literally, he can spit across the border where he's at. And I'm a little bit
walk
farther
out to
north.
the highway and see it and wave.
But
that's how I am to Canada.
Right. Yeah. You live up northern Idaho, right?
Yeah. I'm 1,000 feet from the border.
Nice. So that's about how far I am from Kansas. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
From Oklahoma. Yeah.
So, but she went down and bought some raw milk. She never had raw milk. She's like, "Is this going to kill me?" I'm like, "No, I grew up drinking raw milk." There was an old man that lived in the town I grew up in. That's where we went. We'd buy gallons at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my fondest memories is my mom ladling off the cream.
Yeah.
And put them on the fresh peaches that we had in our trees and stuff. I mean, fresh peaches and creams was amazing.
Yes.
That sounds amazing. I'm a peach fanatic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like every summer they have like the gals selling peaches in crates, and I go down and buy like 2 crates like every time I go to town, and I can them and I make juice and I eat them fresh and I freeze them so I have them all winter. And
oh, nice.
We always wait for the Porter Peach Festival, and the Porter peaches start coming out in the area from Porter, Oklahoma. So
we're kind of the apple area. So
oh, nice.
We're near
we
Washington,
lost our apple
too,
tree, so
we're
trying to get into place. I mean, obviously, you're way bigger operation than we have, but we're trying to get an orchard in place. That way we have the fresh fruits and all that. Well, my wife found out because we lost our apple tree, like I said. The first year we moved in here, we've been out here 10 years. The first year it put on the best apples, and I'm not an apple fan. I'm just, for some reason, I just don't care for apples. But these were some really good apples. And we harvested a bunch. That was the last year that we were able to get apples.
Oh no.
And the tree was starting to die off, and we're like, what's going on? When we talked to a friend of our podcast, some podcast friends that live down in Texas, and he's big into permaculture and stuff like that. And he's like, man, you gotta trim it and this and that. And maybe see if it'll come back. Well, limbs were falling out of it. So, well, do I need to trim it? I mean, and my wife here, I don't know, a month or two ago, came across some information because we have a ton of cedar trees in our yard. And they get these little squiggly looking ball things hanging off of them. And my wife found out that is called cedar apple rust. Said it has no bearing or no effect on the cedar trees, but it will kill an apple tree. It's like a fungus.
Huh.
Oh wow.
So we're like, well, is it worth planting more apple trees with this? So I don't know. I don't know. So that's something in the air with us right now. But we have a lot of different projects.
I wonder, can you plant them further away from the cedars or something?
I don't know. It may be worth a try because I know she started some Gala apples that she bought from the store, started the seeds. So we're like, well, maybe we'll see where it goes, and maybe put it down south on the south end of our property or something away from them.
You might even be able to look into finding trees that are already started and grafted onto a base that's resistant to whatever it is you're up against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something to look into.
Yeah.
Like
we
talk to a local, go to a local tree farm or something.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Sorry, my husband has learned how to push text through when I'm on Do Not Disturb, so I apologize for that.
No big deal. No big deal.
He wanted to know what he was supposed to plant.
Hey, he's trying.
Right?
You might try pears, Phil.
I've thought about we want to do some pear trees. We want to do some cherry trees.
Pears are naturally resistant to many kinds of predation and fungus.
Yeah, we have pears that we literally do nothing with, and they're amazing.
You can't kill them, really, once they get established.
We've got a peach tree. It's hanging on for dear life because it's split. And but we have so many volunteer peach trees just over the other side of the fence where we want to build the orchard. So I'm like, well, it's already there. So
we had good luck with peaches when I was a kid too.
Yep. So
maybe we
need to thin them out, but we had here like 2 years ago. We had one that was like a stick and it had a big peach on the side of it. That was all. That was it.
I have killed like 3 peach trees already, and then it's just because I buy them, and then my husband and I have the long conversation of where to plant them until they die. So,
I feel your
but
pain.
the neighbor needed an auger the other day to do post holes, and our auger was broke, and they were like, "Well, if we fix your auger, can we borrow it?" And we're like, "Yeah." So now our auger's fixed. So maybe this year I'll try again because we can actually dig the hole deep and
right.
Because we have an orchard with walnuts that already has all the irrigation and everything set up. So I can just plant it there.
See, and we were watching. I think I can't remember their name. When we were talking to you in March, you said you lived just down the road from their big YouTubers.
Oh, there's a couple different ones. Yeah, I live near
Good Simple Living, or I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, Good Simple Living. They're across the road from me.
And they were talking about he was driving in landscape staples.
Mm-hmm.
And they said it's because there was so much rock and stuff up there. So I can see why you need an auger.
There's a lot of rock, yes. It's well, actually, my other neighbor's has a rock quarry. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's handy.
Nice.
Not so much. He likes to set off dynamite and then call us and go, "Oh, I forgot to let you know that I was going to set off dynamite today." As we're like,
I grew up blowing up stumps, so
Yeah. I mean, it is North Idaho. You hear lots of booms up here, but
I'm sure. Yeah, it's man, I was trying to bring it back around. I forgot what I was going to talk about. See, this is the way our show goes. We forget what we're talking about and just carry on. So
I walked around today for like an hour with my phone in my hand going, there was something I was going to look up. And if I keep my phone in my hand, eventually I will think of it.
I love being on the phone and looking for my phone so I can look something up to tell somebody something, not realizing that I'm on the phone. That I'm looking.
I think we all have those moments, but we had a shipping delay with our books. And so we had to ship out like 150 packages today. And my daughter does most of my shipping, but I like sit there and help her. And my brain was not with it. I was like, how am I going to get everything done today that's like on my list? Like, it's just not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I understand that absolutely. Because I mean, you live on a homestead, and we're trying to build one. And I understand, leaving the comment. I forget the lady. It was your newest episode I listened to about the lady with the Angora rabbits. That was
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
interesting, by the way.
Mountain Girl makes it. Yeah.
And you're talking about you're never there because there's always something else. And we're like, man, we got so many projects. My wife has been wanting goats for a while, and I'm like, let me get caught up on what we have, and then we can move on. I want to make sure that we get squared away. Because we missed planting strawberries because I was going to build some strawberry beds. Haven't got that in. And it's hectic. So plus life happens,
It does. And you come up with new ideas all the time. Like I actually built strawberry beds, filled them full of rocks, and then was going to put dirt on top of it. And that was like 4 years ago. And the strawberry beds are completely falling apart and they're still full of dirt. And I planted strawberries in a plastic pot this year. So
Right. Hey, it works. Yeah. Cause
Yeah.
we were going to, we're going to do landscape timbers and all that. And I was like, right, maybe my wife, I don't know. I won't take credit for it. I'll give it to her. We have all these because we had several trees that have fallen and whatever. I said, let's use that. Let's use the logs. Let's cut them down, build the logs, and make the boxes out of that. That's just kind of repurposing. It's not going to cost us anything. So we have like 3 different piles of logs out there. We want to build it, and they're just sitting there. So
used tractor tires work wonderfully.
Yeah.
So
another one is old railroad ties. Because you don't have to do anything to them. You just put them in a square.
Yep.
And they don't really move.
don't
I mean,
rot.
sometimes you can put rebar or something to make sure they stay in where they're at, but they're already treated. They're already the right size.
Right. We did that with our fire pit out here. We built a kind of fire pit and kind of place to hang out, and we lined it with railroad ties.
Yeah. It all works. I mean, you just got to do what you got to do to make it all work. And, like we do the one thing at a time, where one thing in the house, one thing in the garden, one thing with the animals. You master those before you move on.
Right. And that's awesome. That's a good way to look at it. I don't know that we've really looked at it that way. It's just, you get there and you're like, oh man, we got so much to do. And it gets to the point where you're like, I don't want to do it because you're overwhelmed. So I think that would be a lot easier.
Definitely give that a shot. Like we make like a quarterly and a year-long plan. Like I said, we do it with the whole family, but then everybody's tracking, and it's on the fridge, and we can go cross things off as we learn them, master them, finish the job. And then every year we try something new. Like this year, we bought an apple press. So we were making all of our own cider, and we have this was the original homestead up in our area. We've actually dug up an old wagon off of our property.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So all the old apple trees are here, and then we have our new apple trees. So we mix it so that because they're a little bit more bitter, and it makes for a really good cider. But we had all this extra, and I was like, well, I don't want to just waste it. So we learned how to make apple cider vinegar this year. So we don't need apple cider vinegar all the time. We still have the ability to go to the grocery store and buy apple cider vinegar, and I'm okay with that. But if I ever needed to start making all my own apple cider vinegar, we as a family learned how to do it.
Awesome. Yeah. I'd love to learn how to do stuff like that.
And then that's a product that you would have if you needed barter items. Vinegar is a very useful substance.
Yeah. And it's, my husband's like, so are we doing the vinegar thing all the time now? I was like, no, that was just can we do it?
Yeah.
So sometimes when you're trying to build the homestead, you can pick the things that actually, some things just don't work for everybody.
Right.
I'm one of them though. We started making our own laundry detergent. Oh man, I'll never go back. Saves me hundreds of dollars a year.
Yeah. My wife started doing that, and there for the longest time, you couldn't find the stuff to make it, like the naphtha, or not the naphtha, but the, whatever, whatever it was, borax.
There's
and all
several
that
different recipes. I even don't like that because the one we use, if supply chain shut down, I wouldn't be able to get all this stuff.
Right.
But what I do like about it is I can buy this stuff and have like a year's worth of laundry detergent. So I'm not worrying about it.
Right. And it does save you some money, I think, in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But Mark saying that here a minute ago kind of reminded me. I loved what you said in your podcast, and I think it was your last episode, where you talk about you all up there do a lot of bartering.
Yeah.
And I agree totally with what you said. I would love to see that just spread like wildfire. People get back to doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, when I was a kid, we did it all over the place. My dad would trade the neighbor, and my neighbor would trade with the other neighbor. And I mean, we had swap meets for animals. I've got 50 chickens I'll give you for that goat, or whatever it worked out to be. Then it was great. I loved swap meets when I was a kid for animals.
Right. I tell people all the time, you can't have a local food system without local food. So whatever you have, put it out there.
Yeah.
And I
we didn't
mean,
used to buy chickens. We used to go buy chicks from the neighbor, or get eggs and then put them in the in the incubator and do them out in the brooder house.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't think of is that even if you they're like, oh, I don't have any homestead skills or I don't have any homestead products, what can I barter? Well, like my husband, he didn't grow up farming. He's an amazing mechanic. So he does all the neighbors' farm mechanics, keeps all their equipment running all season, and trade for 20 tons of hay.
Yeah, that's great.
And it doesn't take him, he goes over in the spring, he does all the maintenance for a few days. He's on call if they need anything. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, we need somebody to there's a storm coming in. Can you hay this one field for us? But other than that, it takes hardly any of his time, and we get our 20 tons of hay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Skills and knowledge are a barterable commodity, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about it, especially the skill part, in kind of going back to what you said also, once you learn it, once you master it, you move on to the next one. Everybody has a skill set of some sort.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that is probably the best way to spit yourself out of the system.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe everybody should spit themselves out of the system one way or another.
As much as they can, anyway.
Even if you're just like, I'm a bookkeeper, keep your day job while you start doing bookkeeping for all the local farms and stuff. Like everything used to be so much smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
you didn't use H&R Block. You used Grandma Ann down at the corner.
Yeah. In my reading recently, I even saw that putting schools into districts was something done about 100 years ago by Teddy Roosevelt because he was afraid rural people were going to be too dumb.
Wow.
And so he put our schools into districts to make sure that, a certain curriculum was taught. And the communities hated it because that was part of their identity. And that was how they taught their kids their own cultures, where you could send several kids or several families to a one-room schoolhouse and teach the kids those topics and learn their own cultures and stuff without being forced to be a part of these districts that has now morphed into what we have now that we're hating so much.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Government should never be put in charge of anything that you want to succeed.
Right?
I mean, why would you think the people who run the post office should be in charge of your education?
Right.
I've seen how they run the post office.
Right.
They're running education the same way.
Something Mark and I, especially last year was like the theme. We would talk a lot about building a community of people and the need for it, because in hard times, which I believe we're there. I mean, we're not coming to it. I believe we're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If prepping isn't on your radar, you haven't been paying attention.
Right.
And I know lots of people who would never have considered it before who are in the midst of doing preps right now.
And going back to what you were saying about the school system and all that, that was a community.
Mm-hmm.
And going back, I'm sitting there watching because my wife and I just kind of rededicated our lives, and we're going back to church, and I have thoughts on that as well. But I think we're going to see more and more people looking for those answers. And yeah, my wife, she just said they try to get kids in a box and it doesn't work, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
But we're seeing that community in the church, and I really think people are starting to learn to rely on other people, or at least seemingly from what I'm seeing. Whether it, in hard times will always bring people together. And I just feel we need to really push it.
We have a community when it hits the fan plan. So, that's definitely something that I think every community should have, whether that's through their church or their geographical community, or, someone that you'd be able to get in touch with if we didn't have like electronic communication.
Yeah.
And have a community like that, whether it's to help feed each other, to help build things, to help educate your kids.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's
and something that I'm seeing with my younger kids, going back to church, especially my 9-year-old, he was real shy, real introverted. But going to church, he's found a different community for kids, and I think that's even more important than for us. But seeing him come out of his shell and wanting to take part in things, and it wasn't him before we started going, but he's really latched onto it, and he's wanting to be a part of everything. He made a comment the other day about wanting to learn to play the piano, and we're like, okay, we'll figure something out. Well, there's a young man that plays piano at church, and he's like, well, Travis may not be there all the time. He said, we're going to need somebody to play the piano, and that's not him. That's not the way he used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel it's so important to build that community, like you said, through church or your local, your neighbors or what have you. And it seems like, from what I've heard on your podcast, that you guys kind of have that community already, the local farmers and all that. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Like, I literally know who to go to for whatever we need, whether that's just in general, today I need something, or if everything were to go down, I know who has what. And it's been offered out, not like I'm like, oh, I know what you have. Like, it's been offered, like, hey, we're not farmers, but we've been storing up this. So if something were to happen, please know what we have. I know that you guys have pork and we have this. We can work together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I said, it goes back to the way it was. I mean, I guess it's been 50 years ago when I was a kid, but that's the way it was. That's the way I remember it.
September 11th, 1915, the first grocery store was opened. It was a Piggly Wiggly. Wow. That was just over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Before that, we did not have grocery stores.
Yeah, you had little markets.
Mm-hmm.
If you had anything, you had stalls out in the square.
And yeah, I'll admit the convenience of being able to go to the grocery store and get whatever I want and need is wonderful. But I would give it all up to have a different type of security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially now, if you look at the quality of the food.
Oh, it's horrid.
Ugh.
Something
We
my
don't eat
wife and I
food.
noticed.
Food-like products.
Right.
I would agree with
Absolutely.
that. And look at
You know,
how it turned out. I mean,
if even if you do what's suggested, just shop the outside of the grocery store, where all the fresh vegetables and the meat are. It's bogus.
You're still getting a
Um,
tainted product.
You are, because my wife and I noticed we bought half a beef from a rancher a little ways away here last summer. And we're using the ground beef or something or whatever, but we noticed our cat started going crazy with this, I'm guessing the scent,
Mm-hmm.
and there's times, we'll forget to put something out for dinner or whatever, and we'll swing by the store and pick up a package of burger or what have you. The cat won't even bother us.
Yeah.
it's the ammonia in the ammoniated meat. To the cat, it smells like urine,
Mm-hmm.
which is where you get ammonia.
Yep.
Well, and even my kids, they notice the difference. They're like, why does all of our meat have such a different flavor than what we buy at the grocery store? We're like, well, because
Because
that's
it's
what
real.
meat is supposed to taste like.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Now,
you don't see local lockers anymore either.
no.
Yeah, not as much.
I mean,
Do you guys,
we grew up
do you guys,
taking our stuff to the locker and going and picking it up once a week.
Mm-hmm. We do have some locally, which actually where we get our meat processed. Well, we do a lot of our own processing, but if I'm selling to customers, that's who I use is the local locker. And then we have the USDA facility. I agree. We have the USDA facility down the road where I can, get my retail cuts that I sell off the property. And hopefully, fingers crossed for me that this year we'll be doing direct to consumer shipping. So
nice.
yeah, we just realized that we have the opportunity to expand our market because of my travels.
Good for you.
So, and I still have a good customer base here, but we want to be able to have a little bit more stability as long as everything stays good,
Diversify a little.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what is you should have 7 streams of income, so
Yeah.
and that's what every millionaire will tell you. So that's what we are constantly working on is not only 7 streams of income personally, but within each product. So like we diversify our pigs, so we have like piglets, whole hogs, half hogs, retail cuts, down the line.
Sure.
But so yeah, we do still use the locker for when we sell whole and half hogs to customers, and we can go there and pick up like processed meats and stuff. So
Oh, nice.
Well, it used to be
Nice.
every community had 1 or 2. Now
Mhm.
you have maybe 1 in 2 or 3 communities.
Well, that's where you went for your meat was to the butcher.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean,
And you could get custom meats, you could get the cuts you wanted, and you could actually get tri-tip somewhere other than the West Coast.
Right. And that's something that we're learning now. We had one of our hogs butchered. Into January, early February, and we're trying to figure all this stuff out as we go. But just the quality of the meat is so much better. I mean, we got our kids involved in the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from killing them and all that, but
Our kids do that too, but
yeah,
I
mean,
did.
I wouldn't have a problem with it. But the day we took him to the butcher, we unloaded him or whatever. He's sitting in the corral, and my son, I mean, it was early enough. It was before they went to school that I had my wife follow me up there because I wanted them to understand the process. And my son was sitting there kind of sad, and like I tell everybody, I said, regardless of whether the purpose of this animal is, you get attached to it.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I had explained to him, I said, this is the reason he's here. This is why we're doing it. You need to understand that. I said, the next time you see him, he's going to be in the freezer.
Yep.
I said, so you need to understand this and come to terms with it. I said, it's okay that you feel bad. I said, I feel bad.
Yeah.
But he's got a purpose.
Yep.
And he understands. My daughter, every time we cook him up, he's like, "Is that Hammy?" Because that's what we named him. And we're like, "Yeah, it is." It's like, man, he's good. So,
And pigs are bad because they are smart and they do have a personality, and you do become attached. Like, I have no feelings for chicken except for when we talk about butchering them, I can still smell it. Because after several summers in a row of butchering 100 pullets at a time,
Yep.
I still dream of it sometimes. And that smell.
Yeah. We just start them real young. Like my 4 and 6-year-olds are in charge of our chickens. Like they decide how many we're ordering, obviously with help, and they handle the feeding them, and then they help on butcher day and they help on processing day, and they just kind of do it all. And as we move up to larger animals, then it just becomes more comfortable.
Yeah. We had my son out last summer. We butchered several, and we were cutting, just butchering them, and he would grab the feet and he'd start squeezing them, and they'd open up and all that. He's like, this is great. He's playing with it. So, okay. He was all right with it. But
our kids like to play the game though when we sit down for dinner. How much of this came from our farm?
That's cool.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So we do that one, and then we're like, oh, but you raised those chickens,
Right.
and mom, she did the beans, and we it makes it where everybody like kind of gets to have a pat on the back for dinner every night.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that sense of accomplishment or gratification, and that's awesome.
And the teamwork that goes into that, it takes everybody to put this dinner on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so much better. I'm sitting here remembering all the stuff we used to can when I was a kid, and it just tastes so much better than what you can buy in the store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Homemade lime pickles.
Oh, I haven't tried those.
Have you never tried lime pickles?
I've never
Oh my
tried
gosh.
lime pickles.
They are the best thing to make potato salad with.
Ooh, yeah.
They're good. But we no longer do lime pickles with the blue dye in them. So if you ever remember blue pickles from when you were a kid, those were lime pickles.
Okay, no, I don't.
Some recipe book said something, they put blue food coloring in them. And
I have put green food coloring in my pepper jelly, because otherwise it's almost white.
yes.
Yeah.
But that's good. I love pepper jelly.
Oh yeah. My favorite that I've made is a tomato jam.
Yeah.
It is so good. It's got like garlic and balsamic vinegar in it. And I mean, you can put it on a cracker, you can put it on a sandwich, on a hamburger. I mean, it is just like
Nice.
It's so good.
We did sweet tomato preserves, and it tasted almost like strawberry jam. Strawberry preserves.
What I want to try
cherry
this year is fermented tomatoes. Because everyone's doing the fermented stuff, and I've never been a huge fan of the ferments, but somebody said that the fermented red tomatoes just taste like a really salty, fresh tomato. And like my mouth just started watering like as soon as I said that, because I could literally live off of a fresh salted tomato. So
my wife could.
Yeah.
My wife could.
So I mean, like I said, I keep salt in the garden. I also keep salt in my briefcase, because when I'm traveling, especially in the South, there's no tomatoes up north yet. Like I might come across a fruit stand with some good tomatoes. Like I need salt in my briefcase.
You got to have it ready.
Right? You get that Redmond's real salt, like
oh yeah,
they give you like the little samples.
My grandparents used to ripen tomatoes on an old screen door laid across 2 sawhorses. And there was always a salt shaker sitting on the corner.
Yep.
It was under the pecan tree in the shade, and you go pick you out a nice tomato and salt it.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
My dad had a jerky box that he made that was like,
oh nice.
It was screens that went inside of like a screened thing. I don't know. And that's how we made our deer jerky. And it was like so salty and flaky. And then we had like the tomatoes, and it's like what fall tasted like to me.
Oh, awesome. I bet that would be good. Do you guys do a lot of hunting up there?
Yeah.
Awesome.
A lot of deer hunting. The turkeys, the neighbors actually have depredation permits for the turkeys because they harass the cows. And so we can go over there and like practically shoot as many turkeys as we want in a day.
Sweet.
And then we'll bring them all home and we just breast them out and smoke all the breasts, and I slice it and freeze it for lunch meat.
Oh, nice.
Or the same neighbors, they called us one night at like 3 a.m. They're like, hey, we had this big cow elk get into our barn. We had a depredation permit for her. We shot her, but she ran down into the gully. If you guys want to come get her out, she's all yours. So we processed like 1,200 pounds of meat in 3 days.
Nice. Elk is amazing.
Yeah. We had like summer
love it.
sausages we had some friends over. I heard the fermented pickles are good too.
Yeah.
We had some friends over and we butchered a 750-pound sow. And we made 500 pounds of sausage. We did 30 pounds of bacons. I had 200 pounds of lard to render. I have like cases of lard now. And
Nice.
we took all the extra scraps and all the organs, and my kids made dog food out of it. They just ran it right through the grinder and froze it in 1-pound packages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, why not?
And then we
That's
threw
awesome.
all the bones up in the chicken coop, and the chickens started laying again in November. I had eggs all winter, and they picked the bones clean, and nobody's cleaned them out yet. So it looks like there's a dead body in my chicken coop.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love how you find a use for everything. And that's awesome.
We just don't want to waste. And
Right?
my dad grew up in Middle Tennessee in like the 40s. And so I really get his mentality on that. So when I started into this homestead movement, it just all like made sense. Like we can just do that.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're only 2 generations out from when it was common, when everybody did it.
But I surprisingly have had like my mom and my mother-in-law stand in the kitchen and be like, why do you waste all your time canning and making sourdough? And I'm like, why don't you?
Right.
Because it tastes better and is healthier for me.
Right.
Yep. And I remember as a kid, my parents were born in the 40s.
Mhm.
And they were children of the Depression.
Yep.
And they canned everything.
Yeah.
Everything out of the garden, Dad would can, and Mom would can. And it's a lost art.
Yeah. My dad was a big hunter and he hunted everything. And we had freezers on top of freezers. And we ate rattlesnake and Rocky Mountain oysters and abalone and whatever he could get his hands on, we ate. It was all meat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right.
Mhm.
I can't poo-poo anybody that is willing to step up and provide for themselves, because that's even a lost art anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife wants to know, what breed of hogs do you have?
Right now we have like a commercial mix that is primarily Berkshire, and then I have a purebred Hereford herd as well.
Okay. Because all we have, we've just got the 2 Tamworth right now, and we're exploring them.
Those are good. It's just the Berkshires do really good up here, temperature wise.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also sell 4-H pigs, so we'll do the purebreds for that.
Awesome.
Plus, we found the Berkshire meat. I mean, they call it like the Angus of pork, and our meat is red. Like,
oh, nice.
It is beautiful. Like you would think that you're putting a big old beef steak on the barbecue or something.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it is delicious. Like there's just so much flavor. Like, you get a pork chop from the store and you feel like you're just kind of eating shoe leather.
Yep.
Like ours tastes like a steak.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Oh, we may have to get some Berkshires too. We have to try it out.
We may have to take a road trip and go eat at her house.
We do eat good. And I've taught between my husband loving to smoke stuff and my daughter learning to cook and me being like there's nothing I can't do in my head.
Oh, hey, that's a good attitude to have.
Right.
Speaking of road trips, I know you're coming down to the Ozark Homesteading Expo is it August or September? I don't remember.
September this year. That's what I hear. She informed me I am.
You're on. That's where I read your bio from. So.
Oh. Well, then I guess I am. So her and I are good friends, where she was like, you applied to be a vendor. Why would you do that? You're coming to speak. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, sorry.
If you say so.
Yeah. See, and that's what I love about the expos and stuff is the sense of community there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my biggest bragging thing about the Okie Homesteading Expo is I'm real apprehensive in crowds.
Oh, yeah.
I get on edge, and your husband being a vet, you may understand that too. But I do. And the last 2 years we've been down there, I don't feel that way.
No.
At all. The people are the nicest
you 100%.
people. And go ahead.
I was saying, you probably wouldn't believe it, but I'm a really shy introvert. But it's like you said, it's this community that we've built.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I'm passionate about, and it's something I feel comfortable with. How many people do you think were in that room that day? 500 or something?
Probably.
Yeah. And yeah, I was nervous, but I'm so comfortable talking about what I have to say. Knowing that I'm with my people.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing.
There's not a lot of places I could get up on stage and tell people to starve their children. So,
Right. And get a laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really did, even talking to the vendors and how approachable everybody was. And they would just talk to you, and answer questions. And I mean, that's when I think of community, that's what I think about is the people coming together and helping each other and answering questions for those that don't know. I mean, and yeah, everybody goes there to learn something.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anybody in like the homestead circles that I wouldn't feel comfortable reaching out to and asking for help, because everybody is so excited to teach, whether it's something they've known all along and they can bring it to the table, or if it's something they just learned last week, they're excited to share it with the next person.
Right. And that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're kind of running out on time. So do you want to let everybody know where they can find you if you're going to be at an expo or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at the homesteadeducation.com. That's where I have all my curriculum. We briefly mentioned it earlier, but it's a full year science curriculum with a focus on small scale farming and self-sufficiency. My book on raising self-sufficient kids is coming out early this summer. And I will be at the Homesteading Festival this week. And then I will be at the Ozarks Homesteading Expo, and I'll be speaking at Homesteaders of America this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mark, you got any other questions?
I probably have about 1 million questions. But I'm sure that if I go and read some of her books, I will answer most of them.
Yeah. And I did. I looked through while I was waiting to chat with you there at the expo. I looked through a lot of your books and your educational materials and stuff like that. And I thought it was great.
Thank you.
We didn't really get into it, but the way you go about explaining the scientific theory and all that through action, having your kids, write, hey, do you think it's going to work like this? Or how do you think it's going to work? I thought was great. That's what education needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And really that's a big portion of why my wife and I are now looking at homeschooling.
Well, I'll put it out there now. If you guys need any help, setting that up, how, curriculum that you want to teach, I would be more than happy to just, sit down and have a chat one day.
Okay.
We can do a Zoom call or whatever, and I'd love to help you out.
Well, I appreciate that. I do. And I guess, is your material and all that, your curriculum, is it accredited and all that?
No.
I don't know what all.
Most homeschool curriculum isn't accredited because accredited has to go through like a college.
Okay.
But it meets the hourly requirements for that subject.
Okay.
And in my case, I do have my degree in agriculture. So everything that you're getting is fully science-based.
Okay.
And
Nice.
then, like I said, if I was helping you guys, we have homeschooled all the way from preschool through, we have a 20-year-old. So we've used probably every curriculum there is out there, and we think that they all have their merits for every family. So
Right. I'm a
Awesome.
big proponent of homeschooling. I wish we had done it with my own kids. My niece and nephew have been homeschooled since grade school. And they've both done really well with it. My nephew, who I'm super proud of, should graduate from college the same time as he graduates high school
good for him.
this summer.
That's
So
awesome.
Yeah,
I know.
my kids will be starting their dual enrollment not this coming year, but the next year. So they'll have their associate's degrees when they graduate.
yes,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
I know my older son, he's 20, he's in college now in Wichita. He did that, but going through the school,
hmm
through the public school system and all that, he did really well. Well, my 9-year-old, the reason we're really looking into it is because he's bored.
Yeah.
My wife has had conversation after conversation. He doesn't cause trouble, but he worked beyond what the teacher could teach him, and he was only in the 3rd grade last year.
Yeah.
I mean, their math
The
tests
nice
and all that,
thing-
they were recommending pre-calc
Yeah.
in 3rd grade.
The nice thing with homeschooling is you can figure out where he tests into and just let him start working. And if he wants to work through it faster or slower or whatever he needs to do that works for him. I mean, my 6-year-old is doing 3rd grade math and still kind of trucking through his kindergarten reading because that's what works for him.
Right. And that's awesome.
But he also started his own worm farm that he gets up every morning, and him and his little brother take their buckets outside and gather worms, and they go in the worm farm, and he's going to start selling them this summer for worm bait or for
Nice.
fishing bait.
Good for him. That's awesome.
So he's giving himself
That is
his own
awesome.
entrepreneurial education.
That's awesome. And I think we need more of that. We need more of life lessons,
hmm
not especially at the college level. I think college is moot. I'm sure there's some professions that I think you should have to go to college for.
Probably like doctors. Yeah. I would like
Right.
my doctor to be educated.
Right. And I agree with that. I mean, that's
If you're
one
going
of
to cut
them.
me open, I'd like somebody else to have taught you how to do that.
Right. But yeah, there's so many other things. I mean, with people have, you're a supercomputer in your pocket.
hmm
You can find anything on there and learn it. So I don't know.
I
Times
think
are changing.
It's a lot to go out and do stuff. And when you reach the point where you don't know how to do it on your own anymore, then you go seek out the information.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Kody, I appreciate you coming on with us. It's been
I had a good
really
time.
good conversation.
It was
We'd love
nice
to
to
have you
meet
back
you.
sometime.
Always.
If you could please, after we close out, if you could hang out just for a second. I don't mean to hold you. I know you got to get out and supervise your husband.
Not a problem.
But if you could hang out for just a second, I'd like to chat with you about, backstage.
Yeah, definitely.
But Mark, if you don't have anything else, I'll go ahead and close this out, buddy.
Yep, we're good.
All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out in the chat. Lord, I just went blank. I'm back to new with this. This is like the second show back because I've been out for like a month. But yeah, with everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. Look forward to talking to you here in a couple of weeks. Keep an eye out for the new podcast that I've jumped. I'm gonna selfishly plug this. It's called the Warrior's Call. It's focusing on men becoming men. That's where I'm at now through this journey in life. Definitely don't forget about On the Fringe. Mark, you said you changed that for YouTube to What If Tomorrow on the Fringe just to be easier to find.
Yeah, people were complaining they were having trouble locating it, so I changed the title a little bit.
So y'all keep a lookout for that. I'm not on YouTube yet with the Warrior's Call. It's more of a biblically based podcast. So if it's your cup of tea, great. We'd love to have you and love to have you in there. I'm planning on switching to YouTube and streaming over there before long. But still trying to get it hashed out. We've only got one episode out on that. I just stepped off here a couple of weeks ago, or last week actually. With that being said, everybody, thanks again for hanging out. Thank you again, Kody.
Thank you.
And we will see you next episode.
Good night, everybody.